How is the LGBTQ plus movement planning to invade conservative churches in America? Occupying Till He Comes at Southwest Prophecy Ministries. Welcome, friends. This is David Schnitker, your host for today's program. Thank you for joining us. Just a reminder that these programs are supported by your gifts to this ministry. If you would like to contribute to this ongoing faith ministry, which deals with Bible prophecy and current events, simply go to our website to contribute. Our website address is www.swpm.us. You will find a donate link on the homepage. The website address again is www.swpm.us. Thank you for your prayers and support for this faith ministry. It is a great privilege to have Carol Rushton on the program both today and next week to discuss her brand new Last Days Beacon article entitled The Queering of the Church, Part 2. By the way, Part 1 of this particular subject was our April Last Days Beacon article. Well, this article is subtitled LGBTQ+, The War Against God and the Plot to Destroy Christianity. My friend, if you are not a subscriber to the Last Days Beacon or would like extra copies of this particular article, I will share how to do that at the end of today's program. Well, I have had the joy of knowing and working with Carol for many years at a previous ministry. Carol is an accomplished author and broadcaster and had the privilege of living in Jerusalem for 8 years while working at the Jerusalem Post. She recently authored the book Understanding Israel and the Middle East for our ministry. If you have not yet ordered this 175-page book, let me encourage you to go to the bookstore at SWPM.us and do so. I gave Carol the unusual assignment of attending the recent God's Voice conference here in Oklahoma City to become an expert on the subject of the queering of the church. And that is what we're going to talk about on our program today and next week. Well, Carol, welcome to our program today.
Thank you so much, David. It's great to be back.
And as I mentioned, you attended a God's Voice conference here in Oklahoma City, hosted by your home church, Fairview Baptist, in January of this year. And this conference was in response to another conference that has taken place in our country. And that conference is known as the Revoice Conference. The first one, Revoice Conference, was held in 2018. So Carol, share with our listeners where this conference was located and what is its purpose.
The Revoice Conference last year was held in St. Louis, Missouri, at a Presbyterian church in St. Louis. It's going to be held again this summer at the same location, same church.
Now, is this a United Presbyterian Church, by the way?
It's a PCA church.
PCA, Presbyterian Church of America. I thought those were conservative churches.
Well, they used to be.
Okay.
Probably some of them still are.
Okay. So what was the purpose of this Revoice conference?
Well, I will let Nick Collins, one of the founders of this conference, you have a question about him later on, but he's the founder, or called the founder of, or one of the founders of the Revoice Conference, and there was an article about him and this conference in July 2018 in Christianity Today. Very well known evangelical fundamental Christian magazine that's read by thousands, if not millions, of Christians, not only in the United States but worldwide. And as they were doing the interview, he was asked about the Revoice Conference, and he was asked to answer some of the concerns or misconceptions. So I'll let Nate Collins speak for himself when he says, Revoice is trying to be a place where people who identify as gay or lesbian or bisexual feel like they can be encouraged. We're not pressuring people. We're not advocating that people use one language over the other. We're just trying to make space for people for whom the language they use is meaningful in terms of how they are trying to reconcile their gender and sexuality with their faith.
Okay, so this conference, this Revoice conference, was to help people of that persuasion reconcile their gender identity, I guess we could say, with their Christian faith.
I guess that would probably be an accurate description.
Okay.
According to what their mission is.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit more about Nate Collins himself. You mentioned, Carol, that he was the founder of the conference. And what is his background, and why did he feel a burden to begin this conference and this movement?
Well, Nate Collins used to be a New Testament professor at one of the leading Southern Baptist theological seminaries here in the United States. He has since left that seminary and is now involved in another organization. So the Revoice Conference supposedly is trying to reconcile, and I guess you would describe it as providing, quote, a safe space, unquote, for people who have grown up in church who do not fit the traditional definitions of Bible or description of Bible sexuality as how we've traditionally been taught in the Bible or how we've read the Bible. So they're trying to, I think, this is my perception, they're trying to allow homosexuals and lesbians to say, yes, we're Christian, but we're also homosexuals and lesbians, and that's okay. So that's my perception of what they're trying to do.
That's quite an ambitious objective, isn't it? As a Bible-believing Christian who understands the Scripture's clear teaching on sexuality, and it is heterosexual monogamy that is the biblical standard, both in the Old and the New Testament. There's somehow trying to adapt that clear teaching to include homosexual and lesbian behavior and conduct, and somehow press that into the mold of historic Orthodox Christianity. Is that a fair assessment?
I think so.
It's hard to take this seriously. I'm sorry. I should. But to me, there is some intellectual dishonesty going on. The very premise of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to let Nate Collins speak for himself. And as we're discussing the Revoice Conference and Nate Collins himself, I did not want to paraphrase anything that he said in this interview. I did not want to take things out of context. I wanted to let Nate Collins speak for himself. So, you're going to learn some things about Nate Collins. Now, Nate Collins is married. Nate Collins, he's married to a woman, and they have 3 boys. 3 children, 3 boys. Now, when you think about this, think about the answer to Nate Collins and what his response was to this question. In the interview in Christianity Today from last year, the interview is asking about lesbians and homosexuals and gay Christianity and how that fits within traditional Christianity and marriage as we've always known it. So, and how lesbians and homosexuals supposedly can be comfortable in church. So the question by the interviewer, Mark Galley, is, where have you experienced this crisis in your own life? So Nate Collins responds to this question. In my own life, I discovered that I was not straight when I was a teenager. The first person I came out to was my dad. My dad is one of my best friends today, but he wasn't always. When I was 15, a lot of things sort of resulted in my dad pulling me and my brothers into his office and apologizing in tears for the way that he had fathered us. So that was an important thing that happened when I was 15. Then I went off to Bible college. I always thought perhaps I would get married. I didn't really know if it would be possible, but maybe I'd meet the right person. And I did, and so I got married in 2004, and our marriage has been wonderful. It has its ups and downs like any marriage. We made the decision in 2007 to be more open about my orientation and the way that I experienced not just my sexuality, but my desires for intimacy and relationships with other men. I shared my testimony at our church, which had a lot of seminary students and a lot of seminary professors, as Sunday school teachers and elders. And I began being more vocal about the need for traditional conservative evangelicalism to understand and better engage this conversation. What he is doing here is he's admitting that he's a homosexual, openly admitting that. He's founded this Revoice conference, and you can't really deny what he's trying to do. He's making it very clear that his purpose in founding the Revoice conference is to force churches, traditional Christian churches, whether you call it, quote, force, unquote, or not, they want Christian churches to abandon the traditional teachings on marriage and sexuality that we've found in the Bible and allow homosexuals and lesbians and transgenders and bisexuals and any other persuasion to be members of churches, to be on the staff of churches, to accept homosexuality and lesbianism as just part of somebody's sexual orientation, and that's just who they are, but they can still be Christian. Now, from what I understand from the scriptures, that's not possible.
Well, it makes me wonder, Carol, whether maybe in the near future there will be conferences to allow adulterers to come out of the closet and have adulterers' Christianity, and to convince the church to be much more open-minded toward that lifestyle as well. So apparently Nate Collins came out with his wife, and they have some kind of an agreement to have an open marriage in terms of Nate pursuing relationships with other men while remaining married to his female wife. Is that the gist of what you gather from this?
That's what I'm gathering.
Okay.
I mean, he says right here, and I'll quote this again. We made the decision, that's him and his wife. We made the decision in 2007 to be more open about my orientation and the way that I experience not just my sexuality, but my desires for intimacy and relationships with other men. I don't think that there's any way that you can interpret that as saying, okay, well, I'm a homosexual, but I'm married, but I still want to have sexual relationships with men.
Wow. I feel sorry for his sons.
Now, how do you raise boys?
Right. To be men.
To be men.
Right.
In that kind of an atmosphere. It must be very confusing for them.
I can imagine. Now, looking at the Revoice conference material, the conference said that they were open, in terms of attendees, open to all who hold to the historical Christian teaching about marriage and sexuality. Now, was this true from your investigation? Did they have an openness, a willingness to allow all potential attendees who hold to the historical Christian teaching about marriage and sexuality to attend their conference?
No, not at all. You could try, but in response to the Revoice conference, my church held a God's Voice conference, and that was supposed to be the response to the Revoice, trying to stand firm on the biblical teachings of marriage and sexuality, and God's stance and God's view on that. Stephen Black of First Stone Ministries, which we've already had on our program,
Yes.
and Peter LaBarbera, who also has a ministry, who's also very outspoken about social and cultural issues, including homosexuality, and has written some books on homosexuality. They tried to attend. They registered. They were not allowed to attend. Their registration was deleted. So they were not allowed to attend because they're very well known in that particular issue, subject matter, as being, Stephen Black was a former homosexual, became a Christian, left that lifestyle, has a ministry, First Stone Ministries, where he ministers to people of, particularly who are dealing with issues of homosexuality, lesbianism, transgenderism, or any type of sexual addiction. Peter LaBarbera is also very outspoken about. They were not allowed to attend. And they probably would have just sat there. They wouldn't have said anything or caused a scene or done anything dramatic at all. But they were not allowed to attend. Now, you can, on YouTube, find some of the videos from the conferences. I don't think they have them all on there, but you can find some.
Are we referring to the God's Voice Conference now?
The
Revoice Conference?
Revoice.
Oh, okay. So the Revoice Conference has a website where the conference sessions have now been posted.
Yeah, some of them. You can find them on YouTube. Go to youtube.com. You can find some of them there. I don't think all of them are there, but you can find some of the speakers.
Okay. Are there particular denominations that Revoice is targeting for their, liberalization efforts?
Yes, they're targeting lots of churches. Now, most of the mainstream denominations that we know of, you're talking about Presbyterian, Episcopalian. I think the Methodists have caved or are about to cave. So the old mainline traditional denominations are already allowing homosexuals, lesbians, transgenders into their churches, church membership, and staff. So now they're going after other churches. Mostly you're talking...
The holdouts.
Yes, the holdouts. So you're talking about independent churches, independent Bible churches, independent Baptist churches, Southern Baptist churches. Now, I will tell you the official position of my pastor. The senior pastor is Paul Blair. His official position is that he wants everybody to come. He wants homosexuals and lesbians to come to the church so they will hear the gospel and be saved. He wants them to come. And now he's not going to perform a same-sex marriage. He's not going to allow them on staff. He's not going to allow them to become a member unless they accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior.
So he has the same view that Jesus does, or did on his earthly ministry, which is whosoever will may come.
Right.
So he's not discriminating against homosexuals or lesbians any more than he would discriminate against bank robbers or adulterers, because they all need the gospel. So he has a much more of an open mind toward folks than the leadership of the Revoice Conference, who prohibited both Peter LaBarbera and Stephen Black, who both hold to the historic Christian teaching about marriage and sexuality. These men were prohibited from attending.
Yes. But again, my pastor wants people to attend so they hear the gospel and be saved. It doesn't matter whether you're a homosexual or lesbian or you're just Joe Blow walking down the street who's just been kind of a good guy but is, still a sinner.
Right.
And, he wants everybody to come and hear the gospel so that they will be saved.
That's wonderful. Well, I think we've reached a good stopping point for today, Carol. Thanks for joining me for today's program. We will continue this discussion on next week's program as we continue to explore the queering of the church. Well, friends, today we are offering an excellent article to accompany this series of interviews. Our June Last Days Beacon article by Carol Rushton is entitled The Queering of the Church, Part 2. The article is subtitled LGBTQ plus the War Against God and the Plot to Destroy Christianity. You may order 5 copies of this excellent article for a donation of $5 or 25 copies for a $15 contribution. Just go to our website, www.swpm.us, and go to the bookstore, type in the title, The Queering of the Church, Part 2. The website again is www.swpm.us. Friends, thank you for joining us for today's podcast. I look forward to seeing you next week as we continue this discussion. Until then, this is your host, David Schnitker. Thanks for listening.